Good morning, everyone. John Sears, Enterprise Analyst here, and today I want to talk to you about Microsoft 365 and in particular, Microsoft Teams. There's a lot to Teams. We're not going to go into all of it, but I wanted to bring some particular things to your attention here in 2024. So first, what is Teams? You may have some experience with it dating back to the early parts of the pandemic. It's changed a lot, but fundamentally it serves a few key purposes. It's really the power of groups combined with SharePoint, and then there's a skin over top of it. What does that mean? So it has leverages all of the aspects about SharePoint that you love, but it also brings people together. So if your team collaborates and works together on documents or needs a place to meet and greet, Teams is where that can happen. If it doesn't happen in email, it could happen in chat. If your team wants to collaborate in a persistent environment or use embedded apps, that's where you're going to need Teams. It can also leverage a bunch of the stuff about groups, so group emails and group notifications. All of that happens intrinsically in Teams. So when we're talking about embedded apps, we're talking about Microsoft Planner, Microsoft Forms, Teams. If you're using a lot of Power Automate, there's a lot of things that feed very nicely into Teams, and it can really help level up your collaboration game. So we're not going to talk about everything that Teams can do. In particular, we're not focusing on the video conferencing or chat functionality. Those are both definitely a part of Teams, but we're going to talk more about what the unique stuff that Teams brings. So collaborative working spaces, how to customize it, bring together resources from across the web, but especially Microsoft 365, how to manage team rosters, and some additional benefits that you get through using Microsoft Teams. So creating a team is really, really easy, but a lot of it may depend on what your organization allows. Some organizations allow individuals to create teams and other ones block it off. So you may have to solicit your IT to get a team created. But with a team comes a group, and with groups come great power and responsibility. As far as using Microsoft Teams, anyone with a 365 account can use it. Again, a lot of this will depend on your own internal organization's controls, but you can have guests and they can use your team. So it's a great way of collaborating internally and externally. And there's a bunch of different ways that we can leverage who can and can't access certain things that we're going to talk about in a little bit. But generally speaking, your team and the channels, which are the subsets within those teams, are formed around a common purpose. So you might have an organizational structure, a team that might include, say, everyone in your organization, but the channels within that team can consist of cross-collaboration spaces or combined efforts. So like strategic efforts that might employ a bunch of people from throughout the organization. The team is a really great place to host the content that team produces, as well as create a space for that team to collaborate. Channels are comprised of members of the parent team generally, although not exclusively. There are actually 3 different kinds of channels within a team that you can create. But by and large, they are comprised of the membership of the larger team. So you think of it as a team is the pool of people that can access a space, and then the channels are little swimming pools within that larger community. And we can either wall those off or leave those open as we see fit. The teams themselves can either be public or private. Some organizations allow you to join the teams that you find. You can also specify per team, we want this to be public, so anyone in the organization that wants to join can. So for example, maybe you have a charity group that is supported within your organization and you want to allow people to participate in that if they want to, or choose not to, or you might have something like a management team that you want to keep cordoned off. You can make it private and only people that are invited to the team can participate. So when you start a team, you're given a lot of things by default. So you're given a general channel. So that's like the main channel that is consists of everyone on the team. And that general channel consists of posts, which is a conversation space. It's a lot like a messaging board. It consists of files, which is a document library. It is exactly the same as the kind of thing you'd see in SharePoint because it is SharePoint. It's a scan for SharePoint. You're taking a look here at the teams that is a part of the application. So there's a Teams application. You can view it online via the web portal, or you can use an application on your computer. This is that. In a lot of cases, the functionality is a little bit better on the desktop application versus the web. So just keep that in mind. But you can open those files via the SharePoint site that is running on the back end of all of these, or you can access it through Teams. And you'll notice that there are additional tabs here, and these can all be heavily customized. So the things that go in those tabs can be specific to you. So you can customize the channels, you can customize the tabs. If you're a manager of a team, it's a great way to put in all of the things that your team members need to do their jobs all in one place. It creates a one-stop shop for all of the resources that you and your team need. As far as managing that team, through the menu here, you see it's really easy to manage teams, add members. You can also elevate or de-elevate. So the level of permissions are basically members and then admins for the team. You can get a link, you can leave the team, you can manage tags. So you can specify subgroups within a team via a tagging system. So you can basically say these 5 people are a part of the IT team. So you could say at IT and just ping everyone on IT if that's something that would be useful to you, or any other type of way of tagging folks. Channels and team management. So the primary way we subdivide a team is through these channels. So you can create private, public, and shared channels. Those are 3 different kinds, and you can allow access or not as needed. Now, private channels are limited to only the people that are assigned to it. Public ones are available to everyone that's on the team. Anyone can view it. Shared channels are channels within a team, but you can actually invite people that aren't a part of the primary team to participate in them. Gets a little bit complicated, but those are the 3 main types of channels that you can create. Now, you may end up with a lot of channels within your team, depending on how big that team is. So if it's organization-wide, your organization has 100 people, there might be dozens of channels within that. But fortunately, Teams allows you to add additional channels very easily, hide channels that are not relevant to you, or pin channels that are the most important to you. You can pin teams and channels. Organizations that have been using Teams and Office 365 for a long time, like me, have a lot of teams that they're a part of, and they're not all relevant. So you can hide teams, you can hide channels that are not relevant to your active need. Tags allow you to ID particular groups within a team. By default, you can add general and it will send a notification within Teams to everyone that is in that team if you add general. But we can create specific ones, add IT, add HR, whatever makes sense for your organization and your needs. So, at PR if you need to send a press release, right? Specialized topics which live within a team can get their own channel, and that way they can have their conversations within their channel without cluttering up the general chat for everybody else. So if you think there's going to be enough people focused around a topic, create a channel within that team. It really allows you to partition work however you need to. You take a look at the channel menu, it's really, really easy to get links to those and add connections so you can add resources to your tab. And tabs are the ultimate form of customization within Microsoft Teams. So you can put whatever you want on a tab pretty much. Most of the Microsoft 365 tools and applications are available. If your organization is using Smartsheet or other selected things that Microsoft has allowed, or even adding new apps that you can bring into the organization that allow you to pull together all of the resources that are most relevant to you and your team. You can share applications, web pages, individual documents. If there's a particular document that everyone on a team or a channel is really focused on and are all collaborating on, go ahead and make it a tab. You might only have it a tab for a week or two while everyone collaborates and focuses on it, but that way they don't have to dig down into the folder structure to find it. They can just open it up and use it. So it's really great for sharing those common resources. And you can bring the most relevant resources to your team right there in the moment to the top where it's easy to access. Create a one-stop shop, customize. And where it works really well too is all the stuff that we talked about in our last video about creating a SharePoint page. You can leverage here because you can create a team which comes with a SharePoint site, customize those pages within SharePoint, and then make them tabs right here in Teams. So you can sort of see how it all comes together into a nice cohesive whole that lets you really customize and get things working the way you want. Ongoing management is really easy. It's extremely easy to add or remove members, change permission levels, add people in the organization or out. Now, people that are on teams as part of their own organization might have to jump between the different organizations. There's just a control up in the top right that'll let you change that very easily, change the domain that you're operating in. But any email address that works, you can log in and use. And it's really, really easy to add and remove guests and members. So if you have an organization that persists, although the membership may change, handling that in Teams is a lot easier than trying to manage it in SharePoint and trying to control who has access to what and how. Just control who's on the team and everything else falls into place. So in addition to all the stuff that you get that's kind of associated with the SharePoint side of things, you get additional group benefits. So Microsoft 365 tools and functionality, for example, if you're creating a Microsoft form and it's something that you want to collaborate with your team or your channel about, you can have that form associated with that team or channel. So it's not associated with your individual account. And when you win the lottery and move on, that's still with the team. It's not tied to your personal account. You don't have to find a new owner for it. You don't have to move it over. It will persist. And a lot of applications are like that. You might have some work that's going on in the Power Automate space or Planner, which is built entirely on groups that will allow you all to work together and collaborate. And with every team comes a full SharePoint site. It's not limited in any sort of way. It's basically SharePoint with gravy on top. It's simply a better, more diverse experience that allows it. And if you create a team that comes with a SharePoint site and you only want to use a SharePoint site right now because your organization's not there on Teams yet, you can definitely do that too. So start it with a team, work with it as a team, and build out that functionality down the road until you're ready to take that next step. And if you need to collaborate with a persistent mix of internal and external applicants, you can do no better than Teams. It really is great at managing who has access and who doesn't, and changing that as needed. Can't recommend Teams highly enough. That does it for today. Thank you guys so much for checking it out, and have a great rest of your week.